Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Salt and Burn This. My name is Sammy.
I'm Valerie.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
How's your pizza?
Oh my God, it was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was, I guess they called it a verde, so it had arugula. It was a white pizza, so it had arugula, prosciutto, Asiago, and like a sprinkling of pine nuts and Parmesan.
Ooh.
So, yes, it was very...
So it's a white pizza, but they called it verde?
Yeah, I guess for the arugula. It made me feel good about ordering it.
Right. Ooh, there's a vegetable.
Like, yes, there's one. There's some green arugula, tossed in the direction of the pizza. But it was very good. I saved one piece, which was very difficult for me to walk away from. But so when I'm done with the podcast, I am going to go finish
eat the last one.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yes. But I did bring my wine over, so cheers.
Cheers. So I was going to ask you, just because I had chatted with Kristen, I think yesterday or the day before, and I was trying to ask her, but she really had no idea. Is this the same Turandot that was in Charlotte with like the 17,000 different towers?
Yes.
Oh,
but
no.
Here...
The stage crew does it?
Nothing moves.
Oh, praise.
There's one platform that moves, and it's just the Turandot, the big tall one. Is the only thing that moves. So she enters, stands downstage, says off with your head, and then it goes away. We put the Emperor on it. He comes out. That's it. No other stairs, no other platforms, no other scaffolding. The ping pang pong wagons, those three moving.
Yeah.
Cut.
Okay.
Completely.
So that's what she said. It was just like, she was like, oh, they are in like big, fantastic, like hula hoop skirt things. And I was like, no, they were definitely in a wheelbarrow contraption where like other guys had to move them around. So,
yes, those are cut, but their hoop skirts, we call them the bells, are still in. It's what they wore in Act 2 after.
Oh, right.
After the Italians tore apart.
Yes. Or no, they just left. It was during the performance. They just like left because they were just standing upstage, and one guy was just like, "I do not want to stand here while they are singing," and then the other guy was like, "Oh, I guess I'll go too." But
because they were fastened in, one of the guys broke the wagon in order to get out. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's like, I don't want to be up here.
I don't remember that.
And he broke it because I remember Wilbert was like, you did what? Now I have to fix this thing?
Yeah, I just remember being like, oh, the ping pang and guys are gone.
Yep,
they just like walked off stage. Huh.
Yep.
All right.
So, but this production is wonderful. This is Garnet. Yeah. No, the singers are great. The direction is great. I mean, and we banged it out in less than 9 days. And it's going to be a great show. It's going to be a great show. So, yay. Yes, it's a good show to kind of end this season on for me.
Yeah.
Because after this, I have a few weeks break before I have to go on to the summer season.
Yeah, it's a nice palate cleanser, I'm sure.
Well, what was it just recently? Somebody at the Met got heckled. Like somebody in the audience stood up and yelled about, you have no technique or something.
Madam, you have no technique.
What? Who does that? Oh, yes, Americans. Self-righteous, entitled Americans.
I know, but I did think that was pretty funny because it's like that. Okay, let's compare that to sports fans, who are just like, you motherfucking suck. And here's someone going,
kill the ump.
Madam, you have no technique. Off I go.
I shall exeunt.
Yes.
Bring me my stool.
Apparently she did suck though, so I don't know, maybe he wasn't
there. Well, I guess.
Okay.
Opera.
I know. Opera. Season 3, Episode 5, Bedtime Stories. Once upon a time, it's a couple of Grimm brothers, Sam and Dean, versus the Brothers Grimm when a rash of gruesome murders patterned on fairy tales terrifies a small town.
Is that really
That was actually the DVD description.
That's brilliant.
I kind of adore it.
That's absolutely brilliant.
Loved it. Written by Catherine Humphreys and directed by Mike Roll.
Okay, Catherine Humphreys. What has she done?
I don't know. I don't think remember. This is the first time I'm seeing both of these names.
Oh.
But I didn't double check to be sure. But no, I'm pretty sure because usually it's the lady writers are usually Rachel and Sarah.
Yeah.
And maybe like another one that's been thrown in there. But anywho.
That's interesting that it would be new people because I thought a lot of the looks of the show were very supernatural. Like there wasn't anything new. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean I was like, oh, that's a callback to. Oh, that's a callback to. It just seemed very
it was
home.
a flavor. Right.
Yes.
And again, they probably have been on the staff, in the writing staff before, but this is their first time being the head writer and or director. So they're probably not new to the whole thing.
And also, if you're working with the same set of designers, as far as lighting designers, prop designers, scenic designers, if you're working with all those same people, you're going to have the same flavor.
Exactly. Okay, so in our recap, our then, same old, kind of the theme of this season, instead of last year where they kept repeating the saving people, hunting things, the family business. Haven't heard that yet. Instead, I keep hearing we have to live down Dad's legacy of hunting down as many evil sons of bitches as we can. That one I've heard come up in every recap.
Yes. It's kind of the badass Dean instead of the, let's carry the gauntlet Dean. Let's be honorable.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. And the cult is still in there.
The Crossroads Demons. Dean worried about Sam's personality.
Is Sam. Yeah. So in the now, in the present time, the first thing we see is a billboard that says "Once upon a time."
Yes.
It's like
overshadowed by a beautiful full-ish moon.
Yes.
With just a smattering of clouds across it. It's very picturesque, the whole thing.
Yes, all you needed was like the outline of a wolf going, oh.
Yes.
And there's like this bedtime fairy tale music kind of playing.
It was so whimsical.
Yeah, whimsical. That's the word. I was like, fairy tale music? Yes, fairy tale, which they bring up throughout this episode. You'll hear it if you lean forward.
That music is there all the time.
All the time. So the scene opens up with these three guys. It's at night, obviously, with the nice, beautiful full moon. There's three guys in a construction site arguing over about construction supplies.
Yes.
Whether it's one of the guy holds up a warped board and he's like, "Who ordered this? How can we, how can we build houses out of like warped wood?" Which I agree with. We can't build. We use these supplies. If a wind comes in, it's just going to blow the houses down. And it's like, ooh, I wonder what this is going to be.
Especially when then there are like animalistic noises in the background. That one guy goes off to investigate a nice fakey scare that happens, or
it's a jump scare, but it's not. There's
jump scare fake out. Right. He like peers behind something.
Yeah.
Nothing there. And then he snorts.
Yes, you caught that too. I was like, I wrote that really big. Pig snort. He literally is like,
yeah.
I was like, brilliant. Okay, so if the Once Upon a Time and the three men arguing over how to build a house doesn't, clue you in, this is Three Little Pigs. So the guy who snorts walks back to the guys who he was arguing with, and it's like, okay, there's nothing there. What are we going to do moving forward? And just then they hear.
Well, one of the guys like goes off to go to the truck, and then he gets like dragged away.
Yeah.
And you see him like dragged off screen. He's screaming with his claws, dragging on the ground. And then blood splatter.
I was like, yes, supernatural splatter. So it's just a whoosh, spray
Mm-hmm.
of blood all over his truck. I'm assuming that the pile of pipes that he got dragged behind were supposed to be like the straw.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know what would have been the straw.
Yeah, they could have had a pile of like a bale of hay or something. I don't know. Yeah. But so, okay, one guy splatter.
Mm-hmm.
And then the two guys remaining are like, oh my God. And second guy gets grabbed. Except this time his splatter is like a spray of blood across the ground plans, off the schematics of the site. And the poor third guy is like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. He runs away and he's hiding behind a pile of cinder blocks. Mm-hmm. And at the last second, he's rushed by the camera. The camera just kind of whooshes in on him like, argh! And you just see him do the hands up in front of his face like, no.
Yes. And then cut to splash.
I liked him. I liked this guy because he doesn't die. We see him in the next scene. Mm-hmm. And I liked him. It's just like going along with whatever Dean and Sam were saying.
I know.
Like
he was great. By the way, for our MapQuest moment, this takes place in Maple Springs, New York. I didn't look up if that was real.
You know what? The first thing I wrote down was MapQuest, Maple Springs, New York, and I didn't look it up. I'm like, I'm totally falling down.
It is a real place.
Oh, good.
And it is... Oh, it's close to Chautauqua. It's right across the lake of Chautauqua. Yeah.
Stop. Oh, my God. Okay, it's on the other side.
So, Chautauqua's here.
Okay.
And the pin is Maple Springs.
Sammy.
Oh, my God, that's hilarious.
I may have to do a little road trip this summer.
I think you should.
I'll just take a picture of myself in front of the sign.
Or take a canoe across the lake.
I will get a canoe.
That is hysterical.
Oh my
God. So I have never been there, but you have been there by proxy.
Yes, I will let you know when we record the podcast that I have finally, that I can add my personal experience to this podcast that we already talked about.
Oh my God, hilarious. But for everybody else who doesn't know where Chautauqua is, which fair enough, it's a little bit northwest of Jamestown. And right on the southernish border of Lake Erie.
Yes.
Right in the corner of the southwest corner of New York.
It's funny, people always call it upstate New York. I'm like, nope. Nope, it is west.
Very west.
It is west, because when I had to do that drive in the middle of the night, it was a 6-hour drive, ladies and gentlemen, from Chautauqua to Manhattan. 6 hours.
Yeah.
So.
New York is big.
It is big, and Manhattan is like a thumbtack. Yes, in New York. So after Tidal Splash, the next thing we see is the boys
a giant frog in the road.
Giant frog, which I looked this up because, spoiler alert, this frog appears several times. I don't care about that. That's not what I looked up.
I think it is actually a toad.
It probably is the toad, and somebody made a comment that American frogs don't ribbit. Canadian frogs don't ribbit. Wait. One frog doesn't ribbit. So maybe it was a Canadian frog I don't know. It was something about ribbiting. Like this conversation. Ribbiting. So this giant frog, I looked up what frogs meant, because this frog comes up a number of times in the episode. And I don't know if it's this frog or if this town is just overrun with large toad-like frogs.
Yeah.
I don't know. But in mythology and symbolism, mainly the frog stands for change, evolution. It also stands for fertility, which I thought was weird. But frogs show us like our lowest common denominator, because they're low down, they're in the muck, they're in the mud, they're in the water, but they also then can hop up on land and show us. Okay, I'm just saying what I read. I didn't make this up. Anyway, they mostly represent change, which I can buy. Change and evolution. I can.
Are you sure it wasn't just supposed to be like Princess and the Frog?
Yeah, but you kiss the frog.
Fairy tale.
The frog gets a change.
But I think that's why the frog was there. It's just like, look, this town is fairy tales, and
this frog is just waiting to be kissed.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's that.
I don't know.
But if you go deeper, like I did, I'm gonna finish this thought because I did
please do.
I Googled this, so I took the time to Google.
Then, by all means.
So I equated the change with Sam making his change, like the darkness potentially changing in him, or the changes that we're noticing in him.
Okay.
So that was me just equating that, which I thought was interesting, that it's usually Dean who makes a comment about the frog. So it's Dean who sees the frog, Dean who comments about the frog. Why not Sam? Okay, I'm going to leave that motif alone for now. It's a fairy tale. There's a frog. You kiss the frog, he becomes a prince. But Dean rightly says later on that he is not kissing any frogs. So I'm going to leave the frog motif alone now. I said my piece. No. Can I? Okay.
I'm not going to take it, but you can have it.
I'm good. Oh, good. So they drive by a giant frog in the road.
Yes.
Sam and Dean are arguing in the Impala.
Ferociously.
Yep. And it's all about Sam saying, I can't just sit by and let this demon deal kill you.
Yes. He's suggesting, like, what if we just we have now the colt that Ruby fixed for us. Why don't we just shoot the Crossroads demon? That should kill the deal. Kill the demon, kill the deal. Boom. Good to go. Yep. Dean is still like, no, because that means we're trying to get out of it, which means that you'll die. Right. But if we keep the deal, then you'll die. And it's just like they're at a
And plus, you don't
standoff.
Actually know that that's how this deal works. You don't actually know that if we kill that demon, that it breaks the deal. He's like, you're just grabbing at straws here. And he's like, just drop it. And then deftly changes the subject to, so tell me about the psychotic killer.
Yeah.
So Sam is left to like stew. No one likes to be told to stop talking. You know? Nobody likes that.
Especially when they're trying to help, like help make a situation better, and they're just told to stop making the situation better. I'd rather be in this awful like turmoil. 8 months left, whatever it may happen to be at this point. So the psychotic killer is a very werewolf-like type of thing where it's, the victims were torn up viciously. Probably an animal it kind of looks like an animal attack, but there were no animals at the scene. Right. And the lunar cycle is right.
Kind of right, yeah. See, now here's another question though. I said that, Sam was, shut down and mad because he was told to be quiet and stuff. But when he starts talking about the case, I felt like he was still kind of reminiscing over Werewolf Girl.
Madison, yeah.
Madison, that he was like just bringing up the word werewolf had him like,
Yeah, like, oh crap.
A little painful. Yeah, a little painful to be talking about.
It would be kind of triggering for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I felt bad because you could kind of see it on his face that, so many things happening to him in just those like, just that 1 minute in the car.
I know. Big roller coaster. So they go to the hospital as detectives Plant and Page. And you know what? I did not have to look that up. I knew right away that those were guys from Led Zeppelin.
Yay! I think at this point, any Led Zeppelin, call out, you have to know. You just have to know at this point. Right. But they're wearing their nice suits.
Mm-hmm.
They're
their nice badges.
Detectives, with the county sheriff's department.
And then they're there to talk to the third brother, who has survived. You don't think that was going to happen after the last time we saw him, which was going with his hands in front of his face.
But because we didn't get to see a splatter.
So he's there, and he has been expecting them because they are, of course, the sketch artists.
Which, of course, Dean gleefully throws Sam under the bus for. Oh, yeah. He's an artist.
The things he can do with the pen. Which is like almost word for word what he says to Murph.
Murph, who needed help painting his back purple.
Yes, the things he can do with a brush.
And I just love that Sam still is like, what? He still has that look.
He never expects to. Like, he never expects.
Like, if you haven't learned by now that Dean is going to do that to you.
Right. So Sam is forced to oblige and be like, all right, takes out his tiny little steno pad. And a pen. He's like, all right, describe him. So this guy is, 6 foot, dark hair, maybe blue eyes.
Yep.
Normal teeth, normal
like
fingernails even after they prod him. Like, are you sure they weren't like claw-like or like pointy? And he's like, no, it's just a guy.
Just a guy with nails and teeth. And then he's like, well, but he does say, oh, but wait, he had a tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
He had a tattoo of Wile E. Coyote.
But he has a moment, this brother, where he's talking about, I watched him murder my brothers. And it was like terrible. And it's like this guilt trip shot, excuse me, with Sam and Dean. He's like, can you imagine, how that would feel? And Sam, of course, expecting the worst or having seen it a couple of times.
Right.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad.
That would be bad.
It'd be like the worst thing that could ever happen, I think.
And they're like, all right, well, thanks. And they go to walk away, and the guy's like, wait, don't I get to see the sketch? And Sam's like, he could have just been like, no, top secret. But he's like, all right. And he hands over his little steno pad, It was brilliant. It was one step above a stick figure. But what I loved is that he did draw the tattoo on his arm, but it was like a dog.
Yeah.
The tattoo. It literally looked like a balloon animal dog on his arm. And I was like,
I was gonna say the whole thing looked like a balloon figure.
So cute.
Like, it wasn't a stick figure; it was a balloon figure.
It was a balloon figure.
Puffy guy.
The guy's
with
like,
hair and teeth.
Hair and teeth and a dog tattoo. And the guy in the bed was like, "It's good." Good job.
Yeah. Looks exactly like him.
Yeah. Gives us something to go on.
Yes.
Enter Dr. Garrison.
So you have another handsome guy, because I think you commented on how handsome the priest was.
The priest was
silvery fox. The priest was. This guy is a silver fox doctor.
Yes, Christopher Cousins is the actor, and by the way, he's been on everything.
Oh, really?
Another one of those. He's been on every show imaginable. His longest run, I think, was on a soap. Was on One Life to Live. He did General Hospital, CSI, Law and Order, Glee, Breaking Bad, West Wing, and of course, Stargate. And a recurring character on Stargate, I might add. But yeah, I didn't realize that I knew him from some of the shows listed there. I had no idea that he was so prolific.
But he did a good job.
Yeah.
I liked him as the role of Dr. Garrison.
Dr.
But
Garrison.
Dean went to go talk to Dr. Garrison and found out that, no, their hearts are not missing, which kind of rules out the whole werewolf theory, or it's very unlike a werewolf murder anyway. But other pieces of his insides were missing. So gross. And also, what's going on? What is this? Yeah. What is this? A very perplexing.
We have to figure this one out
that we got here.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the woods somewhere, a man and a woman are wandering around. They're hungry because the man has eaten all their power bars. They are lost. She's getting mad that they are lost because it was maybe his fault. I don't know. And then they come across the cutest, quaintest little house in the middle of the woods.
Yes.
With the cutest little old lady.
Who comes out and it's like, oh, you must be lost because I am the only house out here,
deep in the woods. It's going to take you a long time to go back. She's got a pie cooling on the windowsill. Just like every other grandmother that I've never met, but
Yes. I just love that she literally said, quote, "You're deep into the woods." And I was like, now I'll never get that out of my head. Because into the woods.
I thought of a different musical.
I went straight into the woods. That was
no. There's a musical called Robber Bridegroom. Not a very popular one, but I was in it. And there's a song that's called "Deeper in the Woods."
Oh.
Whereas "Into the Woods," I don't think they ever say like deeper. It's just into the woods, 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 into the woods.
Into the woods, yeah. And oddly enough, there is no Hansel and Gretel in Into the Woods. So I thought it was an interesting call out that she literally underlined Into the Woods. That's okay. So I also want to say, who can eat more than one power bar? Just going to put that out
there. Who can eat one power bar?
Yeah, I can't. Ugh. I can't. I leave them in my car for like.
I know they've been there since 1972. I'm sure.
Now hold on. Oh, you know what? Even when I sold my truck, I took them out of the truck and put them into the new car. So yeah, they might actually be that old. But you will note that if we ever roll over or we're stuck in a snowbank, I have food.
That's true.
And I'll use air quotes.
I probably would not be complaining about power bars
about
at
how
that
old
point.
My power bars are. But yeah, so these two people stumble across a little old lady, sweet little old lady in the middle of the woods, who invites them in. Oh, you must be lost. You must be hungry. Would you like to come inside and rest? And of course, the guy's like, yes. And the woman's like, wait, no, that's not such a good idea. And once again, the woman is right. She is ignored, and the men ignore her, and often to their detriment in Supernatural. Right. Listen to the women, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to your women. So they go inside and sit down to an amazing feast. I want to know where this woman gets her food, by the way.
Exactly. I was going to say, how does she get anything? You know, if she's that deep in the woods.
Deep in the woods? Yeah,
I'm sure doesn't drive. And like Seamless wasn't a thing
delivery.
Then, so.
Yeah, exactly. I literally thought that. I was like, Amazon must be really busy.
Yeah. Okay, so they sit down and eat. The guy who, you know, when she's offering him, you know, thirds or fourths or whatever it may be, he seems a little off when he's like, no, I'm full. And they both get up to leave, and that's when it hits them.
Yep.
They collapse, they're incapacitated, their stomach is like hurting, or they're
eyes
curled
are
up
blurry.
in pain. Yeah. And the woman is just like, I think she drugged us. And she's staring at the old lady through her blurred vision, who just has this maniacal, cute little smile on her face the whole time.
Everything's going to be okay. Everything's just fine.
Picks up a knife from the kitchen, checks its sharpness, and is still reassuring them as she's like, it's all going to be okay. As she gleefully just starts stabbing away at poor old Ken.
Poor old Ken. First thing she does is she slices his throat. And it's just like, ta-da!
Yes.
Because it splatters.
Blood splatter number 2.
Across the girlfriend, not only across her face, but into her mouth as she's screaming. And I was like, oh! Yes. Not only like stab, but stab very daintily, like boop, boop, and stab, stab. I mean, it's like, in the meantime, the girlfriend is just like,
yeah, you know what? She had some pretty good screams going on too. Like you said, you mentioned the nun scream of the last one. Now, that one still tops all the screams so far that we've seen in Supernatural. But this girl here had some pretty good ones. Had some pretty like horrifying, like stop, please stop.
And I mean, a beautiful scene because it was terrifying. Yeah, just at the laissez-faire, stabby, stab from Grandma smiling, and the abstract terror on the girlfriend's face.
Yeah, especially since they were like couldn't really do anything about it because they were almost paralyzed from the drugs.
And then the camera pans away from stabby Granny Stabberson to the window, and you see this little girl watching this whole scene. And she's like in this perfectly white little dress with a red sash around her waist. She's got a red ribbon in her hair, but her face is completely blank. She's just watching this scene unfold and completely detached from it.
I just want to talk about the granny for a second. I didn't look her up or anything like that.
I didn't either.
Maybe I should, but I feel like I've seen her in a future Supernatural episode. I just think, like, how much fun would that have been? You know, like a 70, 80-year-old woman, you know, getting this role. Just being like, I get to, like, happily murder somebody. And I thought she did really well.
Oh, she was brilliant. She was brilliant. She's like, let me just cut you another piece of pie. But instead of that, it's you to death. So back at the hospital, Sam and Dean check in on the girl who escaped, apparently.
Yeah.
Granny didn't get murdered by Granny. So another victim who was with somebody who was killed, but they managed to escape.
Yes. Her reasoning was, I didn't eat as much as Ken did, so the drugs didn't affect me as much, and I was able to
shove Granny away.
Yeah, I was able to push her, and she cracked her head on the stove, which I think in the fairy tale is this is real, real in the Brothers Grimm story. I think I think it's both of them. They both get away by shoving Granny into the oven and like shutting the door
into the oven and cooking her. Yeah. But it's mostly Gretel who does that because Hansel has stuffed himself so much with the candy and the cookies that he is pretty much unable to help himself. So it's Gretel who does come to the rescue and shoves her into the oven. But so when they were very clever with the wording.
I think so.
I shoved her into the oven and she cracked her head. So she cracked her head.
She cracked her head on the stove.
Yeah. And she was actually kind of upset by it. She's like, she's dead, isn't she? I killed her.
Yeah, so, I thought this actress, or the way that this character was written, maybe it was a little bit of both, was very good at how much trauma she was experiencing. Because usually these victims, like even if we talk about the brother, in the previous murder, he doesn't seem that upset that his brothers have
traumatized,
been brutally
torn apart by a human being.
Yeah. Where she is actually like, oh my God, I just witnessed something actually horrific, traumatizing. This woman, she was nice, and then she just was like, oh my God, carving up my husband. And she just turned into a monster.
That's exactly what, one minute she was a sweet old lady, and the next minute she was a monster.
Yeah.
And then she's able to switch gears again and say, oh, but did you see the little girl? Were you ever able to find the little girl?
Yes.
And she proceeds to describe the little girl that we saw in the window.
Yes, and that she vanished into thin air.
Into thin air. And she also thought it was just so weird that during all this horror that she turned to see this.
Yeah, and she was just like beautiful little girl, just kind of
very out of place in this scene. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Sam and Dean have a little look to each other like, huh.
Yeah, a clue.
Yeah.
So then they go search Granny's house.
Yep.
They don't find any sulfur because they did theorize a little bit earlier maybe it's a demon, but I don't know why like a demon would leave someone alive like that.
Right? Yeah. There's a couple of points they made in this episode and I was like, what? I kind of scratched my head. I was like, what point are they trying to make? Because I didn't catch on to their line of reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad you just said that because I was like, all right, no demon. And then I was like, oh yeah, why would a demon leave somebody? Why would they possess somebody to only kill one person and then walk away from?
Yeah.
But
I guess that would lead into their chaotic nature. But anyway, they didn't find any sulfur, so it's probably not a demon. But they did find a lot of EMF.
With their fancy snazzy EMF detector. Still not the Walkman. I guess they've really pitched that.
No, that one was like just once.
I know, but it was cute.
But only near the window. Like when Sam moves it away from the window, there's nothing, and he goes to the window.
It's not in the kitchen. It's not in the dining room. It's by the window where the little girl was.
Which is just as weird because if it is a spirit, why is it just watching? Yeah. Or like doing its work from afar, and how could it do that?
And so Sam, being the educated one, is been mulling like, oh, what could this possibly be? And he starts to see the connection, like, these killings are sounding like fairy tales. Yeah. These circumstances are very fairy tale-esque, not necessarily the end result, but 3 little pigs and then Hansel and Gretel.
Mm-hmm. But he also makes a mention, it's like, well, actually in the original ones, in the Brothers Grimm stories, they were kind of gruesome. And, over time, they got sanitized into what we know as Disney's tales and bedtime stories.
Yeah, children's stories, as opposed to
No, they
folklore.
said bedtime stories because that is the title of the episode, and I love when they put the title of the episode into the actual episode.
I like that you raised your hand for that. You're like, yes, I got that one. But yeah, because the Brothers Grimm, their stories were folk tales, folk stories. It was stories passed from town to town. It wasn't children's stories. It wasn't feel-good stuff. It was cannibalism, sex, it was.
Yeah, like crows peck your eyes out.
Yes. So oddly enough, since they can't figure out like what the motivation is of this ghost girl, and they're like, how does the ghost girl play into this? They can't. They're just like, I got nothing. So Dean is like, well, that means we have to do research, don't we? Yeah. So oddly enough, Dean goes and starts doing the, Hall of Records research, looking for any little girl who died or was killed or, whatever. But he finds nothing.
Yeah.
No little girls matching the description.
That have died, have gone missing, or anything. Sam, who must have done his research at another library or in another part of the library, I don't know.
At a spirit shop, I don't know.
Yeah. He starts talking about Lillian Bailey, a medium from the 1930s.
Real,
who went
by the
into
way.
All of this is pretty much real. Went into unconscious trances where spirits took over her thoughts. A little bit like, if you need a visual, Oda Mae Brown from Ghost.
The second time, Sammy has brought in Oda Mae Brown from Ghost, which is great because she's a perfect example.
Well, I brought her in. He doesn't say Oda Mae.
I'm sorry, Sammy. Yeah. I meant Sammy you, not Sammy.
Not Sammy, but Sammy.
No, Sammy Salloway. Yes. And brilliantly placed. Yes, exactly the same way. So she's just a medium. She's just a medium who spirits communicate through them.
Yes. So if maybe they're trying to find someone who is unconscious, like a spirit hypnosis type of thing. And then here's like a cute little scene where they're like rolling around the idea of like really fairy tales. This is actually what we're dealing with. And then they come across your favorite frog. And they just kind of stand there and they stare it down for a few seconds. There's a pause, and Sam's like, huh, really? This is normal to you? Just giant frogs hanging
overrun
around?
by frogs. Yeah. This is not, yeah. I mean, literally, it's like if it was a cow, it would be looking at them like chewing its cud. It's like,
yeah.
It's just looking at them. It's a frog.
Yeah. Dan's like, well, okay, fine. But I'm not kissing him anytime soon.
And in the meantime...
Sam notices a porch with a pumpkin and like mice running around, and he's just like, "Oh, look, it's Cinderella!" Because remember when the pumpkin turns into the coach and the mice turn into the horses.
Yeah.
And then there's this a strange bit of like early 2000s homophobia humor. I'm not going to repeat what he says.
No.
But it was a little jarring to hear it. Watching it in 2022 is just like, oh,
how do you excuse that? Yeah,
and you don't.
No,
even though it's a female writer,
right?
It was unfortunately par for the course at that time. It was an easy way to get a laugh.
That's a very good way of putting it, and it was just a way of Dean putting Sam in his place, making fun of somebody who is educated as opposed, so drawing attention to the fact that Sam is well-read and Dean is not. So therefore Dean is more butch because he went out in the world where Sam went to the library and read stories.
And Sam is talking about princesses. So
yeah. So, but it's just, the bottom line is it's Dean ragging on Sam as brothers rag on each other. You find the weakness and you pick. And that's what Dean is doing. It's just unfortunate that they chose that particular vein to do it in.
I know.
So they go and check out this house with the pumpkin. And I noticed there was a ton of hats in this house, at least in the front foyer. Yeah, there was like a hat tree that had tons of hats on it. And then there was another rack of something that just had a lot of hats on. I was like, is this like a haberdashery? Like, I just thought it was interesting because I was squinting at other things because I thought I saw like a Humpty Dumpty painted on the wall. I don't think I did. I think I was maybe too far away from the TV to watch it. But I think I was looking into it too much. I was looking for symbolism. I was looking for the call outs. And I think I started to. Yeah. But there was an obscene number of hats in this house.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have actually loved to have stopped and looked through all of the houses that they go into, because I'm sure the set
episode?
dressers had so much fun, especially with Granny's house. How like fairy tale
doily,
grandma,
kitschy,
yeah,
yes,
kitschy, yes, exactly.
Little tchotchkes
And I would have loved to
everywhere.
have like paused and just, or if I could physically go to those sets and just like look around and see what they did. That would have been a lot of fun. I didn't have a lot of time to like pause and each frame go, what's over here? What's over here?
Yeah.
Anyway, besides the hats, I didn't really catch anything.
Okay.
He does rag on Sam again, says, oh, hey, maybe you'll find your fairy godmother.
But you know what? Who doesn't want a fairy godmother, by the way?
Right. I want one.
Just saying, I would totally dig a fairy godmother. But they do find a pretty blonde.
Yes.
Who's like handcuffed or shackled to the oven or the stove or something.
Yeah, something in the kitchen. She's beaten up.
And they're like, are you okay? She's like, my stepmother did this to me. She beat me up. She does this. She does that. Sam stays to help the girl out of her cuffs, I'm assuming. Dean goes off to search for a noise they heard in the house.
No, they both see the
see the little girl.
Yeah, like she's like peering around the corner, and they're like, ooh, go look.
It's the girl.
So then, Dean follows her around while Sam is helping Blondie get undone. Cinderella. It is Cinderella. So Dean follows her through the house. Like, she keeps like peering around the corner from one room and then like from another room. It's a fun little game of hide and seek, and he finally comes to her. And it's just like, all right, so
who are you?
Yeah.
Which is great because he actually asked her like an adult would ask a child, like,
right.
Well, who are you?
Yes.
You know, he wasn't confronting her. He was just like, all right, I'll play the game.
Yeah.
And I thought that was actually really, really sweet of Dean.
Yeah.
And instead of answering, though, the little girl glitches and glitch, and then disappears. But in her place is an apple, a shiny red apple. So Dean picks it up. So outside, Sam and Dean are now discussing the apple.
yes, because now that Sam is the king of fairy tales, well, this is obviously Snow White.
All right.
Duh.
and then discusses the whole, the apple is poison. It doesn't actually kill Snow White. It just puts her into a deep sleep. But it is the stepmother who did this to her. Which I love that Dean rags on Sam, but I'm like, and yet Sam comes up with the answer.
Right. All Dean had to offer was like the porn version of Snow White, in which the wicked stepmother was very wicked.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dean.
Thanks, Dean. Yeah. Which, if you're going to watch the porn version of Snow White, chances are the real version of Snow White to get the whole porn, contradiction.
I doubt it. They probably
You don't
didn't get that far into the story in the porn version. It was probably like, oh, hi, I'm the evil stepmother.
I'm going to eat this apple.
The end, yeah.
All right, so back at the hospital.
Yes. It doesn't kill Snow White, but it does put her into a deep sleep.
Deep sleep, right. So
deep sleep is a coma, so maybe we just see if there's anybody at the hospital who was in a coma.
Right. But there are no little girls in a coma at the hospital.
Just Dr. Garrison's daughter, Callie.
Is not a little girl.
No.
Is a beautiful comatose victim.
Yes, with pale skin, very dark hair. And we cut to a scene, of Dr. Garrison reading to her from the Brothers Grimm. And this one happens to be Little Red Riding Hood. And as he's reading the story out loud, we cut to
a grandma,
the real Little Red Riding Hood murder that's happening.
Right. I hated this scene.
I know, it's really terrible.
It's one thing to see the supernatural splatters and be like, it's a splatter. But this scene, it has grandma coming from the grocery store. Her arms are full of grocery bags. She goes to get into her car to, load her groceries in. And this man approaches her and is like, here, let me help you. And she's like, oh, well, thank you. And instead of helping her, he throws her into the minivan and proceeds to beat the living crap out of her. He didn't just punch her once, and incapacitate her. He continued the violence on her, and I was horrified by this.
It was a little bit too real. It needed the hokiness and the campiness of like every other murder that they've done. But
this and the next scene, I was like, this was this was hard to watch. This was hard to watch. So, I mean, when he's done beating her, the bad guy jumps into the front, into the driver's seat and drives off with the body of Grandma in the van, and he drives off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, we do see, though, that he's got...
Yeah, they zoom up into his Wile E. Coyote tattoo that's on his arm somewhere. It kind of reminded me a little bit, and it's a scene that I can watch now with kind of a little bit of humor, but there was a period of time where I could not watch Blazing Saddles because...
Have you ever seen such cruelty?
Yes. That truly bothered me to my core as a child. I was like, I can't see them beating up an old woman. It's sad. It's a poor little lady.
Have you ever
as an adult, it's like very obviously like fake. It's funny. It's Mel Brooks. But
I was mad when the guy
I could not watch
punched the horse. I was really mad at that scene. I was like, what did the horse ever do to him? So back at the hospital.
Yeah. The boys interrupt the doctor who's reading the story to just ask him some questions.
Yeah. Kind of prod him about the whole circumstances of Callie's.
Yeah, it's like, oh, how did that... It was basically just like, how did she get... we're sorry to hear that. How did it happen? Mm-hmm. And I did note that Sam was there to soften the interrogation a little bit because Dean was just going straight to the questions that needed to be asked.
Bedside Sam.
Yep. And Sam was just like, oh, we understand that this is really hard for you. We just, if you want to talk about it, you can. Yep. So it turns out Callie had swallowed some bleach by accident. Don't know how she got the bottle, but she's been in a coma ever since.
Yeah.
His wife, a.k.a. her stepmother, had brought her to the hospital.
Where I just happened to be on shift that night.
Yep. And that's that on that. And then his wife had passed the year before.
So out in the hallway, Sam and Dean are talking about the circumstances of this and trying to wrap their brains around, like, why would a stepmother do this? And it comes up with the Munchausen syndrome by proxy, based on The Sixth Sense, which I loved that Dean came up with it based on the movie. Yeah. Which is a horrifying scene in and of itself when you realize that you saw Sixth Sense, right?
I did, but I don't remember the scene that he's talking about. It's been a long time since I've seen it, and I don't really remember it that well.
Briefly, there's a little girl who is sick. She's bedridden in her house, and the mother is constantly holding like not parties, but gatherings so that people can sympathize with her and, oh, you poor thing, your daughter is sick and dying. But in the next scene, you see that the daughter has actually videotaped herself because she used to do puppet shows in her room. And she left the video camera playing, and the mother doesn't realize that it videotaped her pouring Pine Sol or pine cleaner into the little girl's soup and then being like, okay, soup time, here you go. So you see the mother is keeping the little girl sick, just so that she gets the attention. And that disease is called Munchausen by proxy, which is you get attention because of somebody else's suffering. So while they're talking about Munchausen by proxy, the little old lady who got beaten up by Coyote
Big
Boy,
Bad Wolf,
is wheeled into the hospital, and she is just a bloody, beaten mess. And not only is she beaten, but she's been bitten.
Yeah. And they speculate it's like it looks like she's gotten attacked by a wolf. And of course, the boys are standing right there to hear that. And it's like,
and they actually see that Grandma dies.
Yeah.
They pull a sheet overhead, and they actually witness this, and it's like, oh my gosh.
At some point during all of this, they finally like, okay, so Callie was poisoned. Throughout these years, her spirit has just time to fester and get more frustrated and get more angry. And in the meantime, she's like listening to these deranged fairy tale stories.
Right.
So at some point, it's just, she must have just gotten strong enough spiritually to actually...
to manifest her emotions on these characters,
So then Dean decides to, he throws up his badge and he's like, hey, I need her next of kin. I need her address. I need to go.
Yep.
So he takes the address because he's going to go look for the. I need to go stop the big bad wolf, which is the weirdest thing I've ever said.
But it's not. He said some pretty weird things.
Yes. But I think in Dean's head, because the fairy tales are so like frou-frou, and like he needs to go stop the big bad wolf. That's weirder than I need to go stop the devil or whatever else he may have said.
Right.
Sam is going to stay and try and stop Callie somehow.
Right. Got to talk to the dad. Got to talk to Dr. Garrison. So in the meantime, we see school just let out. There's a little girl in a little red hoodie, and she's super sweet. She sees the minivan, Grandma's minivan, goes and jumps in. And it's like, thanks, Grandma. Good to see you. And it's not Grandma. It's the wolf guy. And he turns around and is like, Arr. Again, this was too real for me. That the strange man, I mean, knowing the fairy tale, yes, it's a wolf who's trying to trick the Little Red Riding Hood. But in this scene, the little girl is so vulnerable. And it's just too real to have a man kidnap a little girl and drive away with her. And no one knows. No one's the wiser. And that, to me, I was like, this is a little too...
It's like, ooh. Yeah. And also, again, because I'm still watching so much SVU, it was just like, oh my God, this is, like, all of this is, like, so much SVU.
I mean, the terror that this little girl must have felt in that moment, that not only is it not Grandma, it's a scary man who, like, locks the doors so she can't get out, and she's just at his mercy. And I was like, oh, stop, please.
I know.
Please stop.
Don't worry, so, she's fine. she does not die.
She is okay. She does not die. She gets pretty scratched up, but she is okay. But back at the hospital, Sam is literally having the truth is out there talk with Dr. Garrison.
Yes, like he's forced to. He tries to start off easy. He's like, listen, I need to tell you, Callie's accident was not an accident. It was actually your wife, which really pisses off the doctor. Of course it would. It's just like, no. She loved Callie. How dare you? I'm going to call security, and like slams the door in Sam's face. And Sam doesn't have the time. He's just like, I wish I could be more gentle, but I cannot. Callie is still here. Her spirit's out there, and she's hurting people. And the doctor, like, it loses his anger completely. And he just kind of sits on the bed and takes a pause and is like, so you've seen her too? Yes.
So unexpected. Unexpected that he just says, so you've seen her too. And it's like, boom, commercial.
Yeah.
And so you're left with that, because then it cuts to Dean at Grandma's house. He just busts in the front door. He's got to save Little Red Riding Hood. And he sees her, and she's safe. She's hiding behind a piece of furniture or a wall or something, but she is pretty, she's got like wolf marks on her face. She's pretty clawed up, and he's, Sam's like, where is he? And she's able to kind of point in a direction.
Well, she screams. She screams because the big bad wolf like sneaks up behind him, and then they start fighting.
Right. So audio-wise, though, I had a bone to pick. When the wolf jumps out, there's like a jungle cat sound. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
I was like, what? But okay, I guess they tried to make it sound more animal, wolfy, human, but I was like, that was a jungle cat. So Dean and Wile E. Coyote are now fighting.
He's very strong, the wolf guy.
Yes.
Back at the hospital, the doctor is like, I thought that I was just dreaming. I didn't think that it was real. And Sam is like, no, unfortunately, this is real. No, I'm not a cop. I'm just somebody who knows something about these things. But
and Callie told us.
Yeah.
Callie told us that it was your wife who did this to her.
Yeah. In her own little way, she's been trying to tell you, and nobody's listening, and that is why she's lashing out. So you need to listen to her. You need to talk to her.
Yep. And in the meantime, back at Grandma's house with the fight, the little girl ghost is there watching Dean and Coyote fight.
Yeah.
But suddenly she hears Dad's voice, like Dr. Garrison's voice kind of penetrates her while she's, watching this fight go on. And you hear him say, did Mommy do this? And he's like, Callie, I need to talk to you. Did Mommy do this to you? And she fades away into the hospital scene. So now she's
Yes.
back in the hospital. And now Dr. Garrison and Sam can see her.
The guys, though, back at the house are still fighting. It doesn't stop them from fighting.
No.
In fact, Dean grabs shears from a knitting basket, therefore, fulfilling the fairy tale story of...
Cut the wolf open
yes,
and
exactly.
reveal Granny inside.
Yeah.
And while that's happening, the doctor is now talking directly to Callie's ghost saying, is it true? And after it seems like the longest pause, the ghost nods.
Yeah.
Doesn't speak, she just nods. And Dr. Garrison is just like, oh.
Could you imagine? There was a lot of things that happened in these next 30 seconds.
Yeah.
He learned the truth about his daughter, and that it wasn't an accident. It was actually an intentional act by someone that he
brought
loved.
Into their lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that he entrusted his daughter with her.
Yep. Also, yeah, exactly. That he's been prolonging this torture. It's been him that hasn't been able to say to let her go, and that he's the reason why she's doing these things.
Yes. He apologizes, and he gives himself, both her and himself, permission to let go. It's time to go.
Yeah. And they do the old heart monitor, beep, beep, beep. And she lets go. She dies. He's crushed. The doctor's crushed.
Yeah.
In one of those scenes, I don't know if you could tell, one of those shots, he had like tear tracks like that ran down his face this way. Oh. So there must have been several takes that we didn't get to see where he was just like weeping, like head up, and just tears running down his face.
I was tearing up at the scene. It was really, really sad.
So in the meantime, at the fight, Dean is able to get the upper hand. So now the wolf guy is on the ground. Dean is overhead, and he raises those giant, beautiful scissors over his head to just stab the wolf. And just then, like, the spell breaks. Mm-hmm. And Wolfie guy's like, whoa, whoa, whoa! It's like you see his eyes suddenly become like clear. Yeah. And he's like, whoa, stop! What? What's going on?
Where am I? What's happening?
Yeah. And he's no longer like buff fighting guy. He's like, oh, yeah. What? Just why are you trying to kill me?
Right.
And thankfully, Dean is able to stop himself. Before he like brings his hands down, stabbing this guy to death. And I think they both look relieved in that moment.
Right. I would too. I would too.
So
now everybody's at the hospital now. They're wrapping it up with a nice little speech.
It's really over. Yes, it's really over. She's gone.
Gone. I should have let her go a long time ago. I hope I don't see you guys back here. No offense, but
bye.
Yeah.
Doctor walks away, having to deal with his pain and his loss, leaving Dean and Sam in his wake to keep kind of hearing the echo of,
his words of wisdom.
Yes, I should have let her go long ago.
Yeah.
And Dean, of course, picks that moment to be like, see?
Yeah.
Words of wisdom. Doctor's right, maybe, and Sam, of course, is like, what?
Yeah.
You want to do this right now? I'm supposed to just let you go? That's your answer to this current problem that we have? Dean doesn't say anything.
No, he
doesn't keep fighting. He just walks away. And he doesn't give like a shitty Dean look. He just walks away, leaving Sam no recourse. He can't argue with him. He can't yell at him because, and so that's it. So the next thing we see is a hotel, or a motel, nondescript, except for a beautiful moon.
Yes.
Over top in the sky.
Full moon, and then it fades. It like transitions into like a full moon painting that's above the bed.
Dean's bed. I thought that was a really nice.
I did too. It was a nice touch.
I was like,
also like, I know you're always the one that's like catching the decor of the motels, and I was trying to. This is probably a stretch. But the wallpaper or the paint job of like where the front door, like Sam's leaving, like he's sneaking out in the middle of the night.
Sam's packing up and sneaking out.
The wallpaper looks like the moon's surface. But that was just me, I think, reaching. I was just like, okay, so this is like the full moon motel. There's a moon painting. There's yellow bedding, which is maybe like the moon, glowing in the middle of the night.
And plus the little lamp next to the bed was the yellow, it was a little globe. It was a little yellow globe lamp.
Right.
The Moon Motel. I'm going to write that down. The Moon Motel.
No idea if it's right, but
you said it, it's right. Yep. I'll buy it. I'd buy it.
So, Sam
sneaks out. And he arrives at a crossroads.
Crossroads with a windmill. There's always like a windmill or something there. It's I went back to the first time they go to a crossroads because it was he traps the demon underneath the thing, you know?
Yeah, that little water tower thing. Yeah.
Is this the same spot? But you're right, it's a water tower and not a windmill. But for a second, I was like, wait a minute, is this supposed to be the same place in Missouri?
It's any crossroads.
Or Mississippi?
It's interesting, though, that it's always a gravel road.
Always a gravel road and like grass in the middle of freaking nowhere. And there was always a weird country-ish. Yes. Water tower, windmill. You can't
dig through the concrete in order to dig through the macadam, bury a box.
That's fair.
And also, they seem to have an endless supply of black cat bones, by the way.
Yeah.
It's why
unless they dig it up, maybe they dig it back up after the demon
right after they've made the deal. They dig their box back up and be like, okay, just for next time.
Save it for next time.
So Sam buries a crossroad box. He's got the cat bone, the black cat bone. He's got a picture of himself, and it's his Led Zeppelin ID.
Yeah.
And so he buries it. He waits, and of course the demons never pop up right away. They always have to do that 360 turn with the cameras. No demon. Boop. There's the demon.
Yes.
Beautiful, by the way. ... Jared Padalecki's girlfriend at the time.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Talk about nepotism.
Yeah.
But I see that more as, hey, I'm on a TV show. You want to be on the TV show with me?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's not nepotism. That's, hey, I got a good gig. I'm going to get you a good gig.
Right. And in this exchange, there's like no time for pleasantries. It's so unlike the ones that Dean has done, where they do like these little flirtation passes. It's like she tries, like she does like a first couple of lines, like, "Oh, Sam, didn't expect to see you here." You know, twirl my hair. And nope, just straight up like points the Colt at her.
Pulls the Colt out, aims it at her. Yep. By the way, I did like her dress.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, oh, okay, pleasantries over, got the gun.
Mm-hmm.
But then she says, that's not the original Colt.
Yeah.
And I was like, qua?
Yeah.
Oh.
What do you
mean?
Where's
the original? Yeah, where's the original Colt? I thought Bobby just took the original apart and then put it back together, and now it works because Ruby helped put the magic component back in.
Right, with the bullets. I thought it was just the bullets that were not.
Yeah. So what?
Right.
Is this something that comes up later? I don't know.
I truly have no idea. Yeah, I don't either. I thought.
Qua?
Yeah, that made me go, excuse me?
Yeah. And that's it. That's the only time we hear about it in this episode.
Yeah, she was just like, oh, Ruby helped you. Well,
Ruby,
she'll get
bane of my existence.
Yes.
Yep. So Sam's got all this tough talk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he doesn't have time for games. He's just like, listen, undo the deal. You live, I live, Dean lives. That's it. Yeah, so tough talk, you know, and he's like kind of got his tough Sam face on. And the demon tries to like kind of turn Sam against Dean.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, your brother never treats you right. This would be your opportunity to be free of him. You know,
yeah, he's so whiny. He's dragging you down. You know, this is a good thing. He makes all the
mistakes. You're always having to clean up after him. And Sam's like, you know, read the room. This is not what we're doing here. Not what we're doing here. And he's like,
she says, okay, fine. Well, if that's the way that you want to go, there's nothing I can do about it because I'm just a saleswoman. I have a boss.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
Who is
and
this boss?
She's like, go ahead, kill me, but that doesn't change anything because I don't hold the contract.
Yeah.
And Sam's like, well, who does? And she doesn't say. And I was like, I know who owns the contract. I got very excited in this moment. This is one of those. I'm so excited because I know the show.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, I know it's coming, but we don't actually know in this moment. It's just a side note of I don't hold your contract, so it doesn't matter. You can kill me, and it doesn't release Sam.
Yeah. And Dean. It doesn't release Dean.
I'm sorry, it doesn't release Dean. Damn it, Valerie.
So Sam looks in the moment defeated. He's just like, well, crap. Doesn't last long though, because without reservation, brings up the gun and just shoots her. Straight in the head.
Straight in the head. Yep. Bullet between the eyes. And no regard for the host. Kills the Crossroad Demon, who's made this was Dean's Crossroad Demon, who's made 4 appearances so far.
I know.
But now she's dead.
Yeah.
So kills the host, kills the demon. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Dean has now killed 4 times.
Sam.
Damn it, Valerie! Jake has now killed. No. Yay! Okay, I can do this. Sam has now killed Jake, the priest, the good-looking priest guy.
Mm-hmm.
Casey, the good-looking demon girl who was chatting it up with Dean, and now the Crossroad Demon and her host.
Yeah.
So 4 bodies, 4 human bodies have been killed by Sam. And I have to say that the look on his face every time he's done it has been quite unemotional. Yeah,
this one in particular, I felt was I didn't see any kind of guilt. I didn't see remorse. I didn't see anything. It was just a little bit dead. It was just it was more sad that he couldn't, or not sad, but upset that he couldn't actually solve this deal problem with Dean than that he had killed somebody.
And maybe she was just a little too mouthy for him. I don't know. I mean, he made the choice. It wasn't a, spur of the moment.
Right.
He took a second and thought about it and was like, all right, boom.
Right. And it's probably out of anger that she took the deal to begin with. It's just it's your fault that he is, only has a year to live.
Yep. And since it doesn't matter if you live or die, why don't you die?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact that he didn't try to exorcise her or, save the host, he just killed.
Yeah. The thing about the host is that Bobby did it though. In a couple episodes ago, right?
What, killed the host?
Yes.
Or exorcised?
No, he definitely killed somebody. Oh, he shot at Ruby.
He shot Ruby with no regard to the host. Yeah.
Exactly. So they're kind of not being very discrepant about the host anymore. Yeah. At least right now. For a minute, they were like, you can't kill a demon because it'll kill the human that they're hosting.
But it was Bobby who brought that up to them.
I know it was Bobby that brought that up. That's what I mean. Is the show itself is now kind of the host, whatever. Yeah. Maybe it was when they used Ruby as an explanation, being like, trust me, the demons, once they're done with humans, it's not worth living anyway because they'll probably die.
They just beat the bodies up anyway.
Yeah. So maybe that was their way of explaining off it's okay to kill the host anyway.
And they're suffering. I guess. But it was very cold.
It is very cold. No,
it was a very deliberate killing.
I agree with you. But it's also it's also interesting that they haven't nobody has really thought about the host very much
recently.
Lately.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. You know what I did the first time I watched this, after Dean walks away in the hospital scene? I shut it off because I thought it was done. Because that was such a clear-cut ending.
Yep, of just Dean walking away.
Yes. Yep. And then it was I was doing my little research or whatever, and then it started talking. The most of the article was about this scene, this demon scene. And I thought they made a mistake. I was like, they're talking about a different episode.
Another episode, yeah.
Because it was so out of place. It felt to me, even after I was like, okay, wait, what? And so then I finally finished it, and I was like, it just felt like such a tacked on ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I get yes, there's a little bit of the call out from the beginning of their like 20-second argument that they had.
Right.
But,
what are you going to do about it? Okay, I'm going to take things into my own hands is what I'm going to do about it.
Yeah. But it felt so out of place.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just like, oh, Sam's leaving again. That's all I saw at the end of that scene. At the end, I was like,
oh I'm sorry. That's again. What I saw. That's what I saw. Was like Sam leaving. And then I thought it was they're going their separate ways. And then I shut it off. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's because I was like, and Sam's leaving again.
Yeah.
That's what I thought was happening. And then it kept going, and I was like, huh. I mean, beautifully shot, by the way. I love the whole being backlit by those huge, par cans with the atmosphere and stuff. And, I love that stuff. I thought, again, total, supernatural atmosphere, supernatural look and feel with the Crossroads. And I thought the girlfriend actress, I thought did a really good job as the Crossroad Demon.
Yeah.
But it's completely out of place. Yeah. Which I guess maybe they wanted it to be, because I think there was an exhale at the end of that episode that as an audience member, you go, oh, okay, they saved the day. They, they figured out the monster. They have some unspoken anger, but the brothers need that. So you're like, okay, how are they going to talk about it next week? Oh,
no, of course they're going to leave us with some tension.
Sam has to go and do something that we don't want him to do.
Yeah.
And so he started a whole nother ball rolling. That's that.
But I love this episode. I thought it was really creative.
Oh, I had a great time. I had a great time watching and taking notes on this episode because of the research I got to do. I got to research frogs. I got to research psychic mediums. And, it was fun to research. I had a good time with this. I
thought it was a clever monster of the week type of thing, even though it's a spirit. We've seen spirits before, but it was an interesting way to spin the spirit,
the fairy tales
and turning them into real life murderous
it's kind
situations.
of like they flipped them back from Disney fairy tales, from the French fairy tales. They flipped them back to Brothers Grimm, which is the way they were meant to be. So I kind of liked that.
I do too. Very clever.
What's next week?
An enjoyable episode to watch. Yeah. Next week, we are doing Red Sky at Morning. We have a reappearance of somebody, and that's all I'm going to say.
Red Sky. Huh. Yay.
Thanks all for joining us this week. Be sure to follow us, subscribe to us, rate us anywhere that you can for podcasts. You can also follow us on social media. We are at Salt and Burn This everywhere. And that's it. It's Easter weekend here, but it won't be. It'll be past by the time the time this goes out.
Well, happy Easter, Sammy. How do they say it in Italian?
Buona Pasqua.
I said it wrong. Buona.
Buona. So buona.
Buona.
And then Pasqua. Pasqua.
Pasqua. I said it's like Pasqua with a W. Pasqua. Buona Pasqua.
Buona Pasqua.
There you go. Happy Easter, happy Passover.
Oh yes, happy all the holidays that are going on this weekend.
Indeed.
And we will see you next time. So thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.